I think that today we've really started to see some more cracks appear on the facade of this farce that's called the Russia investigation or the Mueller probe. And it's beginning to become really clear that this was not a lawful or standard investigation of anything. It appears to have been more like some sort of maneuver to cover somebody's ass and possibly to undermine the institutions of democracy here in the United States. And it was conducted by the people who were in power before 2016, by the Obama administration and their cohorts. Um, there's especially Loretta Lynch. Obviously, would be somebody who I think bears a lot of blame for what's going on here. And I figured that there's enough material that's been released today that I think I want to have kind of some sort of question period. So I'll be posing questions and I'll be discussing topics too, because we can't just have dead air. Because I'm talking to you, but I'm technically talking to myself here. So if I'm asking a question, um, I can't just let it hang there. I'll obviously try to pay attention to what people are asking in the chat, but there's a lot that's going on right now that reminds me of the movie JFK. You might remember JFK, Oliver Stone's. It wasn't a biography of John F. Kennedy. It was really just a conspiracy movie that was meant to convey a certain uh, perspective of what happened in 1963 surrounding the events of the Kennedy assassination. And there's it's one of it's one of Oliver Stone's most famous and most critically acclaimed films. But it turns out that it was kind of also a movie that was kind of bullshit, because there are a lot of valid and interesting theories concerning the Kennedy assassination, but the one that was really discussed or I should say portrayed in that film was really kind of far-fetched, and it was actually it was actually shown in court that it could never have been prosecuted. Um, so what's the connection? Well, the plot, and I'll read the plot here. Um, they they had Kevin Costner starring as William Garrison, I believe is his name. Jim Garrison, a New Orleans district attorney, and he goes and finds a number of suspicious characters that may have been connected to Lee Harvey Oswald. Among them, David Ferrie, and there's also, now, was David Ferrie a real person? So there's David Ferrie. There was this male prostitute, Willie O'Keefe. Um, there's a guy named Clay Bertrand, Gene Hill. Anyway, it's been a while since I saw the film. Obviously, you can tell that I'm not exactly up with it. But the whole point of the film was that Oliver Stone, and I'm getting to the parallel in a second. Oliver Stone was so enthralled with this, with kind of this colorful plot of a bunch of people who, they were involved in petty crime in New Orleans, and they may have been connected through the mafia and the CIA and the military-industrial complex, and a lot of them were like these closeted gay dudes and whatever in the '60s. They were the perfect people to be involved in some sort of plot back then in the 60s to assassinate Kennedy. But in point of fact, none of it was ever proven in court. And in fact, a number of these people, I think Clay Bertrand or Clay Shaw, was put on trial in the 60s for the Kennedy assassination, and he was acquitted because there was no material proof that Clay Shaw was the person who, was the mastermind of this. He was involved with a number of Cuban exile groups. Okay, it says here New Orleans District Attorney Jim Garrison prosecuted Clay Shaw on the charge that Shaw and a group of activists, including David Ferrie and Guy Bannister, were involved in a conspiracy with elements of the CIA and the John F. Kennedy assassination. Garrison arrested Shaw on March 1st, 1967. Garrison believed that Clay Shaw was a man named as Clay Bertrand. In the Warren Commission report, Garrison said that Shaw used the alias Clay Bertrand among New Orleans gay society. During the trial, which took place in January 1969, Garrison called insurance salesman Perry Russo as his main witness. Russo testified that he attended a party at the apartment of anti-Castro activist David Ferrie. At the time, Russo said that Lee Harvey Oswald, who Russo said was introduced to him as Leon Oswald, David Ferrie, and Clem Bertrand, who Russo identified in the courtroom as Clay Shaw, had discussed killing Kennedy. The conversation included plans for triangulation of crossfire and alibis for the participants. So there was it was eventually dismissed on March 1st, 1969. Shaw was found not guilty on all the conspiracy charges after the jury deliberated for less than 1 hour. Despite his acquittal, Shaw's reputation and public image never recovered. Well, part of that was because it was revealed that he was gay or something, I guess. Not even that's for sure. So people don't even know. So the whole Clay Shaw angle of this Kennedy assassination was kind of a red herring, and people still to this day have never gotten to the bottom of what happened on that day. So in a similar way, we're talking about the Trump Russia thing, and who's the Clay Shaw of today? Well, the guy's name is Carter Page. And there's all of this speculation about what he did and who he was involved with or whatever. And the more I see of this Carter Page, I'm convinced of only one of two things can be true. The first thing that could be true is that Carter Page is some guy who was, swam in some pretty shark-infested waters and was a totally innocent actor, would go to Russia to do business and would come back. And really, there's he met the wrong people once or twice, and because of that, the CIA flagged him, and he was basically looped into this because he also happened to be involved in the Trump campaign. So that's one theory. That's one possibility in my mind. And the other possibility is that, yeah, he did have an involvement with the Russian government, but because of the incompetence or the lack of transparency within the intelligence community in the United States, we'll never receive the proper evidence to substantiate that. So, if you look at some of the material that's out there, and in the past day or two, there's been a lot flowing out there, floating around, and people are trying to, make sense of it. One of the main issues with Carter Page is that you're talking about somebody who, when he gets on TV, seems really happy-go-lucky, always smiling or something. It's a very weird look, and I think if this was a person who had anything to feel guilty of, it would be very difficult to pierce that veneer. And they haven't pierced anything. All they found out, just so you know, is that he's traveled to Russia and he's met some Russian officials. They've never been able to substantiate some of the claims, including one in the dossier, which they were discussing, that he would receive 19% of the equity in Rosneft, which is Russia's largest oil company. They've never been able to validate any of that. They can't verify almost anything that's present in the dossier concerning Carter Page, apart from the fact that he traveled to Russia and possibly met somebody there. Floyd and Pink starts out the real collusion was with China in 1996. Well, I wonder where you heard that from. Somebody really in tune with reality probably told you that one. But yes, what I'm about to describe to you is, if you put that side to side with the evidence in the China investigation, it's clear that on the one hand you have filet mignon dinner with full, dinner rolls and whatever wine, and on so that would be the China investigation. It's got everything: money, contacts, photos, people at the same meetings, admissions of guilt, human trafficking. China had everything in 1996 concerning that investigation. And they didn't do anything about it. That was collusion. And next to that, you have some sort of frozen chimichanga that you bought at some sort of, rundown gas station on the, on the New Jersey Turnpike or something. That's the Russia investigation. There's nothing there. But what they're trying to say is that you have a dossier, which I was actually reading the actual dossier while preparing for this session, and you read it and it's just like, some of the things in it are, it's things like, how the fuck would you know anyway? That would be my reaction. And B, just so you understand, there are things that are, well, no shit. For example, there's a whole paragraph where they try to say that Vladimir Putin's goal in this whole endeavor would be to undermine the transatlantic relationship between the U.S. and Europe and whatever. Well, so what? So what? So that's your intelligence? You're here to tell us who did what when. Welcome to Pinochet for coming. Everybody, please, again, you probably missed the beginning. I went on a little rant about how this compares to the JFK movie from Oliver Stone. So if you want, maybe later go back to the beginning, and I think you'll probably agree with me. Yeah, this is general question time. We're all posing questions, including me and including you guys in the chat, concerning what new what new things do these revelations concerning Trump and the Russia investigation, what questions do they stir up now? And I'm actually probably going to write them down. I already wrote one of them down just to start them up. And my first question, okay, and everybody, feel free to respond. Feel free to pose your own questions, but it is, if the information about Hillary was coming from Russia through WikiLeaks, which is what we know to have been true, why was there a need for Carter Page? And for that matter, why was there a need for Paul Manafort? Everything can be done digitally today. Now, obviously, I know Trump is famously not crazy about going on social media and computers and email or anything, but the main tie that we've seen concerning WikiLeaks has nothing to do with Carter Page. It has to do with Donald Trump Jr. And in fact, from what I've learned, Carter Page's association with the Donald Trump campaign in 2016 wasn't for very long, and it wasn't very deep. And in different places, there's kind of a disagreement over whether Donald Trump met Carter Page at any point and for how long. And I think all those questions lead to the they lead to the um, conclusion that this guy just didn't seem to have enough of a role to really affect anything that we're talking about, whether it's the election, whether it's Trump's performance and his policies. Uh, what did he have to lean on Donald Trump? And then you get another theory that's been bounced out. Now I've seen that there is a little pushback. I don't know if you can call it pushback. It's more like a contending answer that claims to disprove it. But there there has been a theory out there that geez, Pinochet, that yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'm just gonna read it. Pinochet says that his daughter says, if your butt itches, look for a piece of hair in your crack. There, you happy? Thanks for sharing, both of you, both Mr. General Pinochet and his daughter Amelia or whatever her name is. So so anyway, for those of you that are reading that are going to be watching later, Pinochet is one of the chat people, and he does this periodically. He just goes and vents. So that's my first question. What role could Carter Page have if WikiLeaks basically gives you anything you need? So why do you need anybody to be the middleman between middlemen? If WikiLeaks has all these documents, hypothetically, you wouldn't even need a Trump. You could have had any of these other candidates running against Hillary Clinton. Let's say it would have been, I don't know, Mike Huckabee. And you have all these leaks coming out. So then what's the difference? Well, according to these people, there was compromising information on Donald Trump. By the way, everybody knows that. I hope everybody that's watching this has already seen the video of the phone call between two Russian pranksters and Democratic ranking member of the House Intelligence Oversight Committee, Adam Schiff, where they try to convince Schiff that they have a bunch of information on Donald Trump that could be compromising, including him with some prostitutes or whatever. Pretty funny video. I recommend it. But yeah, this is just creating more and more open questions. There's but as far as him being an FBI agent, Carter Page, the Daily Caller actually said that signs are pointing to him not having been an FBI agent. In fact, he denied actually working with the FBI on some of these things that are alleged to have happened, such as closing, or turning in the these two Russian agents that attempted to recruit him. It says here, Republicans have argued that Page was unfairly targeted because the dossier is largely unverified. Democrats have countered that a spy warrant on Page was justified because of his past interactions with Russians, including those he had in 2013 with a covert Russian named Viktor Podavny. Amid that debate, there has been growing speculation that Page is the undercover FBI agent identified in court documents related to the prosecution of Podavny's spying. It has already been reported that Page was interviewed by the FBI in June 2013 about contacts he had with Podavny, who worked covertly as a Russian trade representative in the United Nations. Mail One, which is the person in question, stated that he first met Viktor Podavny, the defendant, in January 2013 at an energy symposium in New York City. Reads a complaint which was leaked to BuzzFeed News last year. Page told FBI agents that he had limited interactions with Podavny was never recruited as a Russian agent. After meeting at the energy conference, he said he provided the Russian operative with a few of his academic writings. They exchanged emails and met once more, Page told the agents. The FBI has never suggested that Page was a target of its investigation of the spy ring, but his name emerged after a copy of the sealed document was leaked to BuzzFeed News last year. Days later, the government officials leaked the information that a FISA warrant was granted against Page shortly after he left the Trump campaign. The idea that Page also worked undercover on the case, gained steam over the weekend after the release of the FISA memo. So a lot of the description fits Carter Page, but he himself says, I'm not very familiar with the whole UCE concept. I would assume that I'd have been briefed if I were somehow in it. Told that the undercover agent planted recording devices in order to surveil, Page said, well, that settles that. Never did anything of that variety. Now, okay, so he's denied it. I think it could still be true. I think he could be lying, just like he could be lying about not being a Russian agent. Okay, let's not rule anything out, even though I kind of find it hard to believe that he's a Russian agent at this point. But it does raise the question, if he did become a Russian agent in the meantime, and he was known to the FBI back in 2013, then how come we don't see any other developments in terms of cash changing hands, in terms of other possible incentives that should have been paid out that maybe weren't, that maybe were paid out, that the FBI should be monitoring? None of it actually seems to have happened or seems to have been detected, which leads me to my next statement, which is that if these intelligence agencies think that they can continue to accuse people but not have proof of anything and not be able to bring them in for a trial, to indict them, then the FBI is filled with incompetent fools. So are the other agencies involved. And Pinochet is talking about them. He says all the names you're hearing now, like Newland and Weiner, have been talked about for a year now by a reporter friend of mine. Well, I mean, I've heard some of them too. So ultimately, those new angles that are cropping up, such as Sidney Blumenthal, Trey Gowdy. I put a link in the description to this article from Real Clear Politics. Trey Gowdy, the Republican congressman who's been investigating this whole scandal, he's been asking this very fair question, which is, why is it that Sidney Blumenthal, who was Hillary's private hatchet man for many years, why was he involved in any of this intelligence gathering? Why has he been involved? He's somebody who's been involved in disinformation in the past in order to cover the footprints of Bill Clinton's sexual harassment allegations. The guy has virtually no credibility. So, I think that we have a good start here. The first question was whether, basically, why would Donald Trump need Carter Page to begin with? If most of the revelations of Hillary Clinton's Alexandria Chalupa, I'll look her up. Most of the allegations of Hillary's wrongdoing were leaked through WikiLeaks and through other digital means. Why do you need Carter Page? Why do you need all these people? That's basically my question. That's a good foundation. And then why do you need people who happen to have been members of disinformation campaigns like Sidney Blumenthal, who during the 90s would just do anything to, he was basically Clinton's PR Secret Service agent. He would just leap in front of the gun and take it. In that case, leap in front of the camera. So I am feeling a little drowsy. I did want to go a little longer, but it's not working right now. I'm just kind of in a, maybe it doesn't sound that way, but I'm kind of feeling a little fatigued. But I think there is a good foundation, and you guys can keep it going. You can put some comments in the description, but also questions in the description. What are the questions that you're really looking to get answered? There's the whole angle which we didn't really go into because I'm cutting it short about Obama having known about the, you know, Obama having known that this investigation is going on and demanding more information about it, which he said on video to Chris Wallace of Fox News that he wouldn't do. Nabi was set up in Ukraine by Comey to move the info from there to Ukraine. Well, I don't know much about that, so I'm sorry, but you're on your own today. I haven't heard about Alexandria Chalupa or Brett Kimberlin. I think Brett Kimberlin I possibly did hear about, but I will check them out if you put them in the description because I'm about to sign off, and that's it. So yeah, keep the questions going, keep the discussion going. Not just here. You could go in other forums too, but definitely bring some people here and question people. Why do you believe that this actually happened when all the evidence right now stands to show that no, we weren't betrayed by Russia by Donald Trump at least. So have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.